Hello. So I just thought I would make a video here, just mostly about the current the current state of mental health care and um, how it might be improved, essentially. So um, yeah, I guess I could open. I don't know. I have some thoughts written down here. I made a video about that, but I'll just leave it here. So it's. I guess I can make this bigger actually. It's kind of too big, I feel like. I don't know. Yeah, why not? Alright, so, like I was just thinking about this a few minutes ago, and I guess I should probably pull up my um, TBP model. I've shown this a number of times on my channel, but if you haven't seen it, you can read it right now. Pause the video, I guess, because I'm going to really, I guess what I want to talk about more is this, which is this is the 5-step, technically 3-step, as far as I can tell, formula which sort of naturally emerges from the TBP model. So essentially, the current state of mental health care is, in my opinion, it's not near as good as it could be, and I think I know why, which is essentially that the primary goal is not to actually help mentally ill people, or just people struggling with their lives, as effectively as possible and as quickly as possible. But actually, the primary goal is to essentially just make as much money as possible. And so, for example, that's a big thing about medication, right? Is with medication, this has been written about in, I believe it's been written a decent amount about in The Body Keeps a Score, as well as, and I think maybe Jordan Peterson wrote about it in 12 Rules for Life, or Beyond Order, maybe, I'm not sure. Anyway, but I've read about it in a couple different places, and it's that there's, if you're really trying to maximize your profits, then you need to what you would do is what you want is the somewhat socially awkward 11-year-old or 12-year-old maybe, who just keeps coming back, and who's just mentally unhealthy enough to keep coming back to therapy, but not so mentally unhealthy that he's like barely functioning and is like difficult to work with, and so that's what you would do. That's what you would want if you want to maximize your profit. And so ultimately it's as far as I can tell, hypnosis is extremely, in my opinion, it's extremely undervalued, I suppose. The thing about hypnosis is that if the hypnotist is highly skilled and experienced, then in my estimation, hypnosis can be effectively used to significantly reduce symptoms for a wide variety of psychopathologies. I'm not saying you could apply for any psychopathology it would help. I'm not really sure about autism and hypnosis. for example. I mean, and also something like psychopathy. Not really sure if hypnosis would be effective, but I do think for a wide variety of psychopathologies, hypnosis, like the potential value and utility of hypnosis cannot be overemphasized. I don't think, and so I mean, as far as I'm concerned, what we should be doing is like training upcoming therapists in hypnotherapy, so that they at least like know and understand the basics of hypnosis and how to put someone in a trance, and so that they understand like the neurology of language, for example. And I mean, the thing about words is words can be used to direct electricity, so they can be extraordinarily powerful for that reason. And I mean, the thing about hypnosis is it allows the hypnotist to essentially like bypass the conscious mind and speak directly to the subconscious. And I mean, as we know, the subconscious is extraordinarily powerful. So if like the subconscious will accept like whatever the imagination comes up with or produces, no matter how like bizarre or potentially false it may be. And that's the thing, and sort of going back to my, well, it's also here as well, but also on the model is, the idea is that there's, essentially at the base of every psychopathology is a false belief. It either enters first through the body or through the mind. So again, it inevitably affects both because of the fact that the body and mind inevitably influence each other, and because they're inextricably linked. And so sort of keeping that in mind, that's the thing, right? That's why you can have a dream and like it makes perfect sense, but then you wake up and you realize it really makes no sense. It's because your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between sort of like what is true and false. It'll accept whatever the imagination comes up with. And I mean, as we know, the imagination is extraordinarily powerful. So anyway, so that's why, as far as I'm concerned, every therapist, I would say, should at least understand the basics of hypnosis. And for example, I mean, Spidey, he goes by Spidey. His name is Bedros Akilian. On YouTube, he goes by Spidey. He has a YouTube channel called The Behavioral Arts. He's explained that he's trained in hypnosis. He has a certification, or a certificate, and he's talked about how back, I don't know, it's a number of years ago, he would basically see clients and he would he used hypnosis to tremendously help people with phobias, and so that, and that's just one example of where hypnosis can be useful and helpful for people. So it's I think if again, it's about like what's the primary goal of the system, and I think if the primary goal were truly to help people who are mentally ill, then it would be sort of just a part of becoming a therapist would be learning how to put someone in a trance and how hypnosis works. The neuroscience behind it, and how to improve your skills as a hypnotist, because I mean, essentially, like when someone's in a trance, they're in an altered state of consciousness, which again, like when a person's in this altered state of consciousness, it allows the hypnotist to as I said, speak directly to the person's subconscious, and so as far as I'm concerned, hypnosis it has tremendous potential enormous potential really to alter the structure of the psyche of the mind. And again, as you know, any psychopathology has a central false belief at the base of it, and so, um, for example, hypnosis can be used and has been used to help people who have an addiction, for example, smoking, and the way the brain works. Technically, it's the way a human being works is that we're very much sort of like what would you say? Well, we're obviously habitual creatures, but also patterns play a huge role in sort of how we live our lives, and so it's kind of all about patterns in a way. And I pretty much explained the pattern with this model. A false belief essentially causes an unhealthy pattern to develop. That's a good way of thinking about it. And but the thing about beliefs is we can alter beliefs. We can change beliefs, and as the old saying goes, like the way that you defeat lies, or you counter lies, I guess, or silence them is with the truth. And so there's this idea that's in psychotherapy that the exchange of truth is curative, right? And I think that there's a wealth of evidence to support that claim. And so that's another reason why I feel like this is has tremendous value and great utility, because ultimately, like, again, we're very habitual creatures, and the way our bodies and minds function are very much sort of like, well, patterns are an enormous part, I guess, of how a human being functions, I guess is the right way to say that. And so, yeah, I just think it would be much more productive, and it'd be a good thing if learning the basics of hypnosis, at least the basics of hypnosis, was just a part of becoming a therapist or a psychologist of any kind, whether it's just a therapist or a clinical psychologist, or a neuroscientist, maybe not, but I think if you're going to be working with people and seeing clients about meeting with clients on a regular basis to try to help them with their various issues, then you should really have at least a basic understanding of hypnosis and how to put someone in a trance, and what to do, what not to do. There's memory editing, which Chase Hughes has explained in detail, talked in detail about that. As he talked about it in his fairly recent podcast episode with Joe Rogan, and so there's certain things you should, like, we should train these therapists, not to do certain things, right, and to be careful, because it is an extraordinarily powerful method or tool, I would say, but it can be used to help people in a way that is deep and also, I think, in a short period of time. So, like, I don't really understand why we're not doing that. Why we're not teaching every upcoming therapist or psychologist, at least giving them a basic education about hypnosis. Again, I suppose it's really just a matter of the primary goal of the system, right? Which is not to truly help people get better, but is to you know, pull in money essentially. And so but that should not be our goal, right? So yeah. I mean, I guess I'll talk about the formula a bit. This formula is mine, first of all, so nobody can use this to make money or anything. Although again, I suppose if some, place were to, like some company or whatever were to use this, then ultimately it would lead to, as far as I could tell, it would lead to them helping people at probably an unprecedentedly, or a rate that is unprecedented in terms of how fast people would be getting better. But anyway, so, and I'll talk about why I think this could be so powerful. So there's 5 steps here. As far as I can tell, this is optional, because technically the person doesn't really need to be aware of the central false belief. I don't think, anyway. I could be wrong about that, but and as far as I can tell, the fourth step is also technically optional. Because perhaps it's not, because but I think it is, because sometimes I don't see how it's possible all the time. Although it could be, sometimes I think it could be possible. Whoops. But yeah, but the 5th step is certainly necessary. And so I suppose I should maybe change the wording a bit here, because stuff like schizophrenia apparently have a genetic component as well as an environmental component. But regardless, again, I think, for these reasons, the hypnosis, the potential value of hypnosis cannot be overemphasized. Another thing is too, this is not just some simple formula that you put someone in a trance and you say these words and it works for any mental disorder. No, that's why I think this is has tremendous potential to be effective, is because ultimately it's depending on the psychopathology, it requires an understanding of potentially a number of different therapies, such as like ART, which is accelerated resolution therapy, or like red light therapy, or methylene blue maybe, or I don't know. I think like N-acetylcysteine, which I've used for my trichotillomania, and it's been pretty helpful. And again, depending on if the disorder is mostly neurological, say for which apparently schizophrenia is, as well as ADHD, then it might take a deep understanding of neuroscience and neurology. So it really just depends on the psychopathology, and of course again, it may require a combination of techniques like hypnosis, and also and also stuff like massage can be very helpful. This is something that again is discussed in The Body Keeps the Score, which is that someone who's highly traumatized or has trauma could talk about their traumatic experience for 2 hours to somebody, but then it doesn't really help them. They don't feel better afterwards. They're not more functional after they do that. But then they could go get a massage from someplace, and all of a sudden it helps tremendously. And it's because just the fact that the body does keep the score, and the trauma can be, and often is, trapped in the body, and so it may require a combination of sort of techniques whose purpose is to change the functioning of the mind of the person, as well as techniques that like directly influence the body. Like again, such as like red light therapy or any number of different things. I mean, like supplements. But I mean, I guess the idea is that if you're able to essentially replace the central false belief, then then the body and the mind will end up sort of functioning normally again, and then the psychopathology will resolve. And again, the mind and body are inextricably linked. They're connected, and so they influence each other. And so, again, that's why the first thing is to identify where the central false belief is located. Inevitably, the whole sort of system is going to be disrupted because of the fact that the mind and body are inextricably linked. But, as far as I can tell, the central false belief will be located in either the body or mind. And of course, chakras play a big role when it comes to all of this. But again, if you can essentially replace that central false belief, then first you have to identify where it's located, then identify what it is, and then again, you stop lies with the truth. So then you replace the false belief, and then the system essentially will start functioning again. Now again, it may take, how much time it takes will depend on the severity of the mental disorder, and I mean, and stuff like like how often you see the therapist potentially, or how skilled the therapist is at hypnosis, if you're using hypnosis. And so, but ultimately, because the idea too is like, if you sort of get say a massage, and which can be very helpful, like essentially what occurs, what can occur during, say, a massage, is that trauma gets released in the body, and then the body's able to function better because it essentially realizes that, like this is not true, like this is, like we've been, like the body sort of realizes it's been functioning in a way that is not like technically I guess consistent with reality. Perception, like their perception, a person's perception has been warped due to a traumatic experience, and so they're not living life to the fullest. And so when you kind of use any number of techniques to help the body be healthier, then essentially the body essentially realizes that it's been like believing something that is false, and so once it knows that, then it's able to essentially adjust, almost like update, you could say, and then begin functioning normally again, or in a healthy manner again, I guess you could say. And so yeah, and again, it can require a combination of techniques which sort of change the structure of the psyche, and techniques which alter physiology, or sort of influence the body in order to fully cure the pathology. But again, regardless, I think the potential utility and importance of using hypnosis as a therapeutic technique, I don't think it can be it's supposed to say overemphasized. Wait, hold on. Cannot be overemphasized. I messed that up. I need to change that. Anyway, whoops. I never noticed that. But so yeah. Anyway, but so that's the formula, and my thoughts on the current mental health care system. Um, yeah. I don't know what else there is to say really. I mean, well, I'll say this: I'm currently using the formula to help me with my OCD, and I've been using it for a little while now, and it seems to be working. I'll just say that, it certainly seems to be working. So we'll see. I'm not like fully cured yet, but I've been getting better. It certainly appears to be working. Um, so that's something. Well, I guess we'll see in a month or two or three. If my OCD is fully gone, but regardless, it certainly seems to be working right now. So that's interesting. So anyway, I just thought I would share that, and yeah, take care. God bless. Bye.